Welcome, Kathy.
I'm calling the Morton Grove regular trustee meeting to order on April 9th at 7 p.m. in the activity room of the library. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You have to be secretary? Yeah, just hit over the head.
Yes, to your left.
Okay, could you call the roll?
Trustee Grant?
Here.
Trustee Cameron?
Here.
Trustee Goldstein?
Here.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Here.
Trustee Roberts? Trustee Peters here. Trustee Roberts?
Here.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Okay. Approval of the minutes.
I'll motion to approve board meeting minutes from March 12, 2015.
Second. Any discussion, any questions, comments? If not, what do I have? What do you call the roll for approval?
Trustee Cameron?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstein?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez? Yes. Trustee Miller?
Yes.
Trustee Peters, yes. Trustee Ellis?
Yes.
Trustee Zerbe?
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Agenda items only. Are there any public comments from the public?
No.
No, okay. Next item is the president's report, and I got lots of comments. I typed them out so I could read them, because when I don't, I'll use them. First, I think everybody in the room knows by now that Deborah's homesick with the Morton Grove flu disease. It's Morton Grove Public Library flu disease. It's a very specific virus that you only catch if you work in the Morton Grove Library. So I suggest nobody get a job here. It's very dangerous. But she felt terrible. But she tried, but she no way. And if I had to drive as far as she does, I wouldn't come in either. I also want to publicly congratulate Mark Albers on a very well-run campaign, and I'm only sorry that he lost. But he ran a good campaign, and I want to thank him for that.
Amen. Thank you.
I'm happy he's with us.
I'm glad you're still here.
That's right.
Me too.
Yeah, well, we were going to work out something. Most of all, I want to thank Art Goldstein for your years of service, for your...
It was a decade, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And present him with this certificate. And it accidentally says 8 years because we didn't realize it, which we apologize for. It reads, Certificate of Recognition presented in gratitude to Arthur Goldstein in recognition of his 8/10 years of dedicated service to the Morton Grove Public Library.
Well done, Art.
Thank you. And that's, we have homemade refreshments in Art's honor.
It's not for Passover.
No, I forgot all about that. You just reminded me, I'm so bad, I totally forgot about it. It shows you how observant I am.
Thank you, the clock was...
So if anybody wants, please take. And last, I'd like to welcome Kathy Peters back to our ranks, and it's good to see that you are definitely on the road to recovery. And you're out of bed. That's what counts. Next month, we will be installing our newly elected library board trustee, Stephanie Gray.
She won the election.
She won the election, yeah. I understand those kind of elections. Yeah,
It was a tough,
this is for you.
tough one.
It was a tough campaign.
As secretary, you do just swearing in.
Oh. Excellent.
And the thing is all there. The foundation committee met last night, and things are moving along very nicely. One thing is a donation information pamphlet has been designed. It's not quite finished, but it's been designed. I'll pass this around. It'll be available everywhere and anywhere. There's also just an application for people who may want to be members. On the back is the explanation, on the other side is the signing in.
There is a webpage also.
And I was getting there.
Oh, okay, sorry.
See, you've got to let me read slowly. You want to read it down?
No.
It's down there. The 50/50 raffle is going to take place at the grand reopening on May the 29th. That's 50/50, win 50 of whatever comes in, 50%. The tickets will be sold for $1 a piece, and if anybody's able to help selling raffles that day, that's May 9th, between 3 and 5 p.m., I believe.
4 and 8.
4 and 8.
6.
Oh, I got that right. Okay, I'm doing good today.
Type that in.
I didn't type that, no. See, that's the problem, I didn't type it. Also, the cat tends to lay on the paper and mess things up. Anyway, if anybody's willing or able to sell raffles, we could use the help. There's going to be a single prize raffle at the Morton Grove Days that, again, we're looking for help. It's a flat screen TV that we're going to be raffling off, and the raffle in this case is $5 a ticket or $20 for 5 tickets, so they get a bonus by buying 5. And that will be sold starting the night of the grand reopening and continuing on through Morton Grove Days.
65-inch
65-inch. Anything
Yeah.
else you want to tell me about it?
Sony
Thank
flat,
you.
high def.
Maybe,
It will.
if we get a good price. And like Kevin just alluded to, this material that I'm sending around is also on the web page under the Morton Grove Library organization page. So you look up www.mgpl.org/foundation, and you'll go right to the foundation pages. There's 2 or 3 pages devoted to the foundation. And we're looking for members, so if you know of anyone who wants to either be involved at a regular basis with regular meetings every month until we get organized, or at least would like to participate in some of the events we're going to be having, we're looking for volunteers. This is what's in this is the back page of the upcoming B&B, the Books and Beyond, and it's got the stuff about the foundation. Thank you. I figured out I get a little crazy. The days we need volunteers for Morton Grove Days is Saturday, July 4th, in 2-hour slots starting at 3:30 and ending at 9:30. So if anybody's available, either let me know or let Brenda Ross know. Brenda's been handling the organizing of this project. That's it. Also, everybody should have gotten notice on their emails to fill out a statement of economic interest. I hope everybody's done theirs, except for Art doesn't have to.
Thank you.
Lucky man. Okay. Now, that's it for my report. And I probably left half the stuff off. Committee reports, Finance
Okay,
Committee.
finance, we had check register, just one void where we missed a dime on a payment to Studio GC, so we had a voided reissue.
That's a good thing.
That's off there. Cash statement, we've got about 2.3 million on hand. At this point last year, we had 1.6 million on hand. 1.6 million last month at this time, so that reflects receipts of our tax, cut of the tax. So that's good. PMA, what Kathy set up a while back. Our portfolio yield is up to 4.38. It was all at 4.09 a month ago, so it's still trending in the right direction.
Which is wonderful, because just generally stocks are not doing well.
Yeah, so with all the projects and everything else we've got going on right now, our condition is still good.
I have one question. It might have an answer. In comparing what we used for this year, of the budget to what we used last year at this time, last year we were on par for the end of March at 16.79%. We're currently at 32.47%. Is that solely reflected because of the construction?
I believe it is, and I was hoping Deborah would be here to ask that question of her.
Maybe we can get a further answer to that question.
Yeah,
Because I
no.
can't see exactly.
We're running up on, so, I mean, we've got an increase in receipts too versus last year, but then the expenditures are kind of running up too.
Yes, so it's kind of a little, it's a little wonky right now.
A little wonky, but luckily wonky in our favor.
We have the money.
Yes, so it's working out. No further questions. Submit
We
that.
take that question to the.
Yeah, I got it. That's the finance report. I'll submit it for approval.
Facilities committee.
You want a motion to approve?
I'm sorry,
the
Ray.
finance?
I want to go home.
Somebody motion to approve the finance.
I am, motion to approve the financial report for March 2015.
I will second.
Any discussion besides what we've had already? If not, take the call roll.
Trustee Kelly.
Yes.
Trustee Goldstein.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Yes.
Trustee Mother.
Yes.
Trustee Peters, yes. Trustee Ellis.
Yes.
Trustee Burke, yes. Motion passes.
Okay. Facilities committee.
Kevin, do you have a report?
I
Is that where
can
you'll?
bring up today, I mean, here on the record, or whichever.
Put them together.
Bring it up,
Put 'em
the
together.
building.
Okay. Well, things are moving along good. Carpeting is done. Painter's coming tomorrow to do touch-up kind of stuff. All the lights are in and running.
What are the cables that are hanging from
They're going along and snipping them off.
the? Oh, okay.
It's what they used to suspend, but I think they left them hanging in case they had to adjust it. They didn't come quite level. So I've been telling people to pull chains to check the
Yeah, that's what I figured.
That's what it looks like, yes. So we got the nonfiction books and all the shelving that we're putting back up all came back into the building Monday and Tuesday. So everything's going really well until this afternoon when we had a little problem. I don't know if Deborah has mentioned this or not, but we've put wall shelving on pretty much every wall in the whole place to gain back some of the shelving that we're losing. And late this afternoon, the wall shelving on the north end at the north wall at the west end, what was the reference and reading room, fell off the wall. Dumped about 1,000 books on the floor. Nobody was hurt. Called the company from which we bought the shelving, which has been our shelving supplier for as long as I've been here. So it's not, somebody that we just came up with.
Yeah, right.
Called up a message for him, called the architect, they emailed him, not heard back yet, but we will be having them come out to reattach all the wall shelving, because it clearly was not done correctly. So.
They didn't go into the studs, they went into the wall.
Well, it's plaster.
They didn't hit the studs.
Well, they
were going
can't
fast,
hit
but
they can't hit the studs because the shelves have to go where they have to go, and the brackets go every 3 feet.
But they have a
So,
way of.
right. Yes, well, they didn't.
Yeah.
Regardless, you have.
So.
You.
So that all has to be taken down.
Well, no, not taken down. It would probably take like a shelf of books off in each section because these brackets ended up kind of behind a shelf in most places. So it'll be a job. There's no question about that.
It's just making things more interesting.
But it won't be in our document.
we'll give them a truck
It shouldn't.
to take the books off, and then they're on their own. No, we're not paying for it.
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah. So that's where we are. Other than that, everything is pretty much on schedule.
Furniture is all here except for the custom desks.
No, none of the furniture that we purchased is coming. It's all
None is
coming
coming.
April 20th,
Okay.
including the desks.
Including the desks. There's no place to put it right now.
That's right.
I went in and peeked.
Yeah, pretty much the entire center is filled with either contract-related supplies or the boxes of books that we have yet to find a place to, not, I mean, we know where they're going, but it didn't all fit when they brought it in. We have to do some shifting and stuff, so. It will be a couple weeks before the
Okay.
floor is empty.
I figured.
Yes.
Okay.
And the soft opening will be,
Well, we're shooting for May 4. After today,
After today.
I'm not quite sure because we have to do a lot of weeding and shifting in the nonfiction, and we pretty much can't touch it. I mean, we can touch the freestanding stacks, but the shifting involves everything on the wall. And, you know, at this point, not knowing when they can go back to fix that. That's gonna wait.
people standing in front of the
Right,
wall.
right. So,
Yes.
other than that, we're on schedule.
Minor detail. It's, you know, it's, goes along with asbestos and other things. Okay, this policy committee.
Okay, the policy committee met and we reviewed, the collection development policy. We reviewed it, there was no changes made because it wasn't done in October of 2014, so it's pretty well up to date. So we didn't make any changes on that. Library study and meeting rooms, anything in red is what has changed. It used to be library meeting rooms, but now we have study rooms with the new facility. We made a change, I think, in the first paragraph, if I remember right now, you can see. Because I think it had a number of rooms, like 4 rooms or 5 rooms or something like that.
Correct.
4 study rooms. And we took the number 4 out because we want this to go also to the new building. So it'll take in all those rooms
You need
too.
the fan on you.
Do you want to sit here? Because it's
No.
blowing on me.
Was it blowing on you?
Yeah, I could feel it.
Or we can direct it your way, because I can tell you're reading up.
Yeah. Things just aren't stable yet. Should I move it? That's it.
If it's, oh, is it getting to you now?
Can you feel it?
Oh, thank you.
Anyway, so that's what anything in red where it said, like, you'll see in the second paragraph, study and meeting rooms, because now we have study rooms, so or we will have study rooms, so we are, changed it to adapt to that. And that was it. And everything,
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I'm in favor with the meeting room statement policy as presented.
Second.
I'll second.
Any discussion, any questions? If not, well,
Trustee Goldstein,
yes.
trustee Gonzalez,
yes.
trustee Mother,
Yes.
trustee Peters, yes. Trustee Ellis,
Yes.
trustee Burke,
Yes.
trustee Galen,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Do you have a report for the director?
I don't.
Okay.
Can answer any questions, maybe.
Are there any
what
questions
she
for
wrote.
the substitute director?
Did you leave any notes or anything?
No,
She's,
no, because she wasn't.
she was
she-
off yesterday from sickness
And
and
expected
didn't
to be in today. Yeah.
anticipate coming in today.
Okay.
Okay, unfinished business. You have in your packets 4 bylaws that are being recommended for mild changes, minimal changes. I hope everybody had a chance to go through them. The first one is Article 9 amendments. It looks like this.
So a
And
motion to approve.
Yeah, just changing from even year, they're supposed to be reviewed every 2 years. We didn't review them last year because we had just rewritten a lot of them last year. By putting it onto an odd year, that puts it back into a 2-year cycle for one thing. It also takes it away from when new officers will have been in office for a year at that point, and I thought that was probably a better solution than having new officers and bylaws hitting all at the same time. So that's the one change is on the bottom. It suggested it to be changed to odd years rather than even years. If not,
Did we
Well-
change it from an odd to an even?
We didn't, do you wanna do these all at once, or do you wanna do them independently?
let's do them independently, because there may be
I'll
problems.
motion to approve Article 9 amendment to have the bylaws reviewed and revised at least once every 2 years in the odd years.
A second.
Second. Any discussion?
Yeah, the last time we did these revisions, we talked about how when our committee got together, we went over this with a fine tooth comb. And now this is the third time the revisions are being brought through in less than a year that have been unilaterally done. I'm asking if you could please hold them up, put them together, and save them up for next time. These are little tweaks. And what it's kind of doing is taking it from the work that the three of us did and putting it on to just one person to do something as big as changing the bylaws. And last time we talked about this, there was a promise there'd be no more, and now there's 4.
Good point. I mean, the bylaw
That is a good
committee
point,
did.
and I agree with that, because we did work hard to
Yeah.
change them. I mean, this would be nice to keep, that when we do
There is
revise
one
them.
in here that suggests that it become part of the policy committee's responsibility to review bylaws, and that would put it back in the situation of a committee.
Yeah, I wouldn't be for that either, because we had talked about that during the revision, and between the three of us, it was decided that it would be an ad hoc committee.
I honestly don't remember, so.
I do, I remember.
I'm not saying it didn't happen, I just
Yeah.
don't.
A whole separate committee and
Right.
have
The-
whoever wants to.
The board can look at these, and they can agree that they don't have to be acted upon tonight.
Okay.
And if you needed to move something around, like what's on this back page about timing, that can be handled on the agenda during that month.
Okay.
So if you wanted to reserve these changes for a moment in the future, like Kathy
Yeah, because there are
suggested,
some other
can-
items
I'm
that
sure.
you can,
I'm not
I'm
real
sure.
comfortable
it
with.
may be best to do that if you had an agreement to
That's
do
fine.
that.
Do we need to take a vote on that?
So then
or-
we could table that motion.
Okay.
I would motion to table, we just need somebody to agree to
I
table.
agree.
Alright,
Okay.
that takes that.
That being the case, that ad hoc committee probably should be recalled then. Because some of these things will affect us that I've got on my.
But not in
It
the
hasn't
very
even been a
short
year
term.
yet.
But not in the short term at all.
It's
Not
been-
till you hit an even, not till you hit an even year.
Well, that's this year.
No, next year. Next
I know, as
year.
fast as you want time to go
I
by.
know, I want time to fly by, okay. We canceled the Carrie Dittman CPA of Sickish on the annual audit report because we felt Deborah should be here to answer any questions that come up in the discussion.
Yeah.
And since she's not here, we don't want something to go out to the public before we've had a good look at it with some answers to questions.
Okay, short takes for question.
Okay. Now it's movie time.
Yay. The functional as opposed to dysfunctional movie.
This one, functional movie time.
No,
Welcome to Short Takes for Trustees. I'm Beth Novolinsky, the Director of Marketing and Communications for United for Libraries. We are the division of the American Library Association for trustees, advocates, friends, and foundations. Today I'm here speaking with our Executive Director, Sally Gardner-Reed, about what it means to be a library trustee. So Sally, what does it mean to be a library trustee?
I think the simplest answer is in the name itself. It's to hold the public trust, to ensure that their investment in their library is employed to ensure that best practices are used to deliver services and programs that the community wants and needs to grow intellectually and to have a quality of life that enables them to be great citizens and full participants in their local government and to enjoy lifelong learning.
Is there a difference between governing boards and advisory boards?
There is a difference. It's a pretty big difference, actually. Governing boards have the full responsibility for all assets of the library. That's their fiduciary responsibility. It means that they hire, evaluate, and can fire the library director. The library director is a direct report to them. They're typically elected at large by the community, or else they're appointed by the governing body of their entity, whether it's county or city. And again, they do have the full responsibility for the library. Advisory boards are, as the name implies, there to just simply advise the library director. They're representatives of the community, and they sometimes help with the same types of jobs that the governing board does. They assist with policy setting. Sometimes they assist the city or county manager with the library director's evaluation, but they have no direct authority over the library director and no direct authority over the library itself.
And for the purposes of our discussion today, are we talking more about governing boards or advisory boards?
We'll be talking throughout the series really more about governing boards, but actually much of what we'll be discussing will be applicable to advisory boards as well.
Earlier you mentioned fiduciary responsibility. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, most people think of fiduciary responsibility as simply financial responsibility, but it actually is much more than that. It is a responsibility to act in good faith always, to have no self-interest, to have no conflict of interest. That means no hiring of kin, no letting contracts out to your brother-in-law. It really is acting at that very high level of integrity in all actions.
And we're going to talk in another session about board ethics, which you were just referencing. Can you tell me a little bit about the pros and cons of having a fiduciary board?
I am a firm believer that it's always best to have a fiduciary board. They give a lot of protection to the library director because the library director is a direct report to that fiduciary board, and I believe that the fiduciary board is a lot more directly connected to the community. When there isn't a governing board, it is typically the case that the library director is a direct report to either the city manager or the mayor or the county administration. And that means that that library director is typically at-will employee. And that means that if the county or city administration finds some of the materials in the library objectionable and want them removed from the shelves, the director's in a pretty difficult spot to keep them there because he or she can literally be fired by not complying. Also, when the library director is a direct report to the city or county administration, they have to walk a pretty fine line in being direct advocates for the library's budget. So advisory boards do have less liability than governing boards, but the director has far less protection.
You mentioned less liability. What do you mean by that?
Well, when you are a fiduciary for a nonprofit, you have a certain level of risk because you are in charge of the assets of that nonprofit. Courts are generally very liberal in their take on nonprofit board members. So they understand that nonprofits are a corporation and board members acting in good faith within a nonprofit are generally protected by the courts. Not always, but generally. You don't often hear of library board members being sued, for example. But there is a level of risk. So one of the things that library boards can do is indemnify themselves, and that means that they write into their bylaws that the library will cover board members and their expenses if they're sued, regardless of how frivolous, by the library's budget. So that helps protect individual board members to a degree. But most attorneys will advise board members of nonprofits to be sure that they have directors and officers insurance. And this insurance covers the board in total as well as individuals for all legal fees and all court costs if they are sued, with the exception of being sued for discrimination cases in which individuals on a board are found guilty. So it's a really good insurance to have.
So there really is a lot of responsibility in being a trustee.
There really is, but there's also a lot of gratification.
Can you describe effective board-director relationships for us?
Yes, I think simply put, it's when trustees govern and directors manage. But that sometimes is easier said than done. It's not always a clear line when governing lets off and management begins. So I think one of the ways to sort of test it is that boards should be looking outward. They should be looking at community. They should be setting policies for delivering services to that community, promoting the library to the community, advocating for library services to the community. The director should be seen, I think, as the chief executive officer, the CEO. He or she should be the one responsible for the staff, for developing services and programs to meet the needs of the community, for managing the budget on a regular basis, overseeing that financial piece, doing all the operations that a normal CEO would do to move the library forward and to make sure that the library is meeting the needs of the community. So I think it's a good relationship is one where there's a high level of trust, where trustees, as I say, govern, where librarians manage, and there's not micromanagement on the part of the board, but on the other hand, the director keeps them well informed and respects their input and respects them as well.
Can you give us a concrete example of this?
Yes, I think the development of a collection and policy is a really good area to look at. So for example, the Library Board of Trustees will adopt a collection development policy. They will look at a draft that perhaps the director brings to them. They will ensure that it meets the needs of their community, that it works for their library. They'll modify any draft that comes to them and finally adopt it. And when they do, they stand behind that policy and hand it off to the director. And that policy provides a framework for collection development by the staff. So the trustees don't decide which books to purchase and what materials should go into the collection. That's for the staff to decide. But as I say, the board needs to stand behind it because it is their policy. So when materials are challenged, and that does happen from time to time, people have differing views on what's objectionable, the board needs to be prepared to stand behind their own policy. Now, most collection development policies will come with a reconsideration form for those who find materials objectionable. They can fill out the form. That usually goes to a collection development committee for their feedback, and then it goes to the director for his or her comment. And then if that doesn't satisfy the person who is challenging, it can go to the board. If that material was selected well within the framework of the policy, again, I have to say that it is the board's policy and it's really their job to stand behind their own policy.
That sounds like a very important and often difficult role for library trustees. And we'll be talking about policy development in another session. Thank you, Sally. This has been a really good discussion about what it means to be a library trustee. And I can see from our discussion here that when there's a great library, there's a great board and director relationship, providing a good foundation for success. And I'd like our listeners to know that we've developed a list of additional resources which your director will provide to you. We invite you to review that list and discuss any questions that you have with your library director. Thank you.
Any comments? Any
Are there
thoughts?
going to be these every month?
If there's an interest and they are informative, this is just the first one. There are 10 actually. I can give you the titles to them if I can find
Well,
it.
what I was wondering was, would it be just as efficient and then less time here if it was emailed to each of us on a private email and we could watch it?
I'm not sure that can be done I'm not sure that technically that can be
You
done.
can get the links.
You can,
It's online. This is at ILA.
Hey, like, there is a login, I'm not sure if it's something,
there's a login.
It seems pretty,
method.
like,
it's not like
generic.
personal to Deborah,
Yeah.
right?
I think it's a pretty generic, login, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it works.
Do it at home.
Yeah, I'd rather do it at home.
You have a
than
cup
public.
of coffee and
Yes,
enjoy watching.
Does it take 10 minutes?
10 minutes, 2 glasses of wine.
Okay, I'll take that suggestion. Did Deborah, no, we don't have the communications. I do know we made the paper in a number of different ways. The spelling bee was in there. There was an article that I wrote that was in there. Do you have the
I
communications?
saw your article. That was
Thank
very
you,
well
Carlotta,
written.
for working on
Thank
the
you.
spelling bee.
Oh, it was delightful. It was so much fun.
It was fun.
It was.
It was fun.
I didn't believe how many older people were there
Yeah.
to do it.
Any public comments and non-agenda items?
Do you need me to do anything before I come next
I want to
month?
talk to you after
Okay.
the meeting's over, if you'll stay for a few minutes.
Sure.
Anything else before we call for adjournment?
Executive session.
No need for an executive session that I'm aware of.
I'll motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.